Hello and welcome to Atheists Talk. My name is James Zimmerman. I will be your host for this episode. Today we're going to be talking about Camp Quest here in Minnesota, and I have two people to help me with that. I have Chris Bovitz and Theresa Bulander. I'll introduce them here. Chris is the Vice Chair and Secretary of Camp Quest North here in Minnesota. He's been on the board for the past 3 years. He joined the board after his two sons went to camp and had such a good time that he thought he had to be more of a part of it. Theresa Bulander holds both a doctorate and a master's in community education. She's an advocate for youth development programming here in the Minneapolis area, and she serves on two nonprofit boards, Camp Quest North and Reach for the Stars. And she also has two children who have attended Camp Quest every summer. Right now she is the chair of the board of its board of directors. So welcome, Chris and Theresa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what I want to talk about first is the history of Camp Quest. Let's just first, what is it? And then we'll go into a little bit of the history of it. Whoever wants to start.
I'll start. Camp Quest is basically the secular version of many religious camps. There was a need seen many years ago that people of no faith, or people who didn't believe, would like to go somewhere and not have an environment where they felt uncomfortable with their belief or non-belief. Camp Quest was started in 1996 in Kentucky with one camp. It later expanded very quickly across the country. Their headquarters has moved from Ohio to Virginia, and they continue to expand. Would you like to take some?
It was started by Edwin and Helen Kagan, and the first expansion was in 2002 into the Smoky Mountains, and now there are various regions throughout the country, and I think is it 30 camps? There are 30 camps across the nation that are serving nearly 1,000 campers, and the growth and interest is exponential. There is such demand that each region is now looking to expand and offer more sessions as we are. Camp Quest Minnesota is also at that stage.
So when you say region, do you mean each state, or like in the Pacific Northwest and the
Basically, yes.
Midwest? Yeah.
Camp Quest has divided up the country into various regions.
Oh, okay.
Based on pretty much geography. We are Camp Quest North, which encompasses Minnesota, the Dakotas, Iowa, and Wisconsin. In the past, we've only had the camp in Minnesota, but we are expanding into other parts of our region. Next year, this year, we'll have a camp near Des Moines in Iowa.
Okay, so the most surprising thing so far is that it started in Kentucky. Did I hear that right? It's not the state I would have guessed. So why did it start there?
Well, that's where Edwin and Helen were at the time.
Oh, okay.
And
so that makes sense. Yeah.
And I believe that's why it also moved to Iowa then after 2 years.
Okay.
And the way they started expanding was that people would say, oh, can you come and do a camp in our region that's just like that? And they said, we'd like you to come visit us, and then you can take our ideas and you can develop your own camp with your own regional talents and skills and flavor. And so in Minnesota, a group got together and started the first camp here in 2004 with 11 campers and 6 staff. And then in 2013, we had enough demand that we moved to 2 sessions. And within, I would say, 2 years, we were filling both those sessions.
Okay. With how many campers in each session?
With the more recent ones, it has increased through time, but the last ones when we were full, we had 60 campers per session for 1 week session.
Yeah. So a lot more than the original 11.
Right.
Yes.
And I think last year we even accommodated a couple more, so we were, I believe, at 124 campers last year.
Just had to sleep out on the porch or something?
Yeah, everyone took turns and it was okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So when you said that there was like a need to have a camp like this, are other camps just overtly religious? Is that what parents were complaining about, or?
I don't think they were complaining about that, but a lot of camps, for example, I went to 4-H camp when I was a kid, and it wasn't overtly a religious camp, but there were religious aspects to it. They would say grace before meals. Some of the songs we would sing would have a religious theme to them. which as a kid growing up in the 60s, 70s and 80s, you don't really think much of it. But having lost my religion, so to speak, and having kids who I'd like to have that same mindset, it got me to thinking, is this something that I want to have my kids go to? A religious camp, or even one where it's religious adjacent, and thinking that maybe that's why these other people set it up that way, the Kagans, that there was something where they wanted to focus on secular values, humanist values, something that would be geared only toward that, and not that it would be anti-religious, but more a-religious.
Sure. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to add that I think there is a unique blend of programming that encompasses the humanist principles that they follow, as well as critical thinking programming. And then what makes Camp Quest Minnesota particularly unique is that every year we pick a theme for the camp. So there are some things that happen every year, like Socrates Cafe and service projects and lots of traditional summer camp activities. But then Camp Quest Minnesota also will pick a new theme every year and then try and make the crafts and the activities and special programming unique to that year. So it's changing every year. It's not the same experience. And then that's all grounded in empathy and critical thinking and science and rational thinking.
So what's an example of the theme, a specific theme? Do you remember?
Yeah, last year our theme was Say What, which was about language and communication.
Okay, sure.
And so we had everything from semaphore flags to each cabin took a different language and tried to learn a few key phrases, and we had people talk about nonverbal communication, and it was really a fun, expansive topic. This year, the planning committee has chosen illumination, and so we'll be talking about the physics of light and the color of the universe and optics and glow-in-the-dark technology, and so then various activities can be centered around that theme. So even though there's a core to the intent of the camp, we get to do something a little different every year, which I think is appealing.
Yeah. It seems like that's one of the things that gives this camp value, is it's not the same thing every year. I'm sure kids enjoy going to summer camp and swimming and archery and horse riding, and that's all great. But what our camp tries to do is vary it so there's more of a reason to go other than just to go horse riding and swimming and archery and see your friends, trying to enrich the kids beyond what they would get in school. They might not have a unit on optics, for example, or illumination or light, and we think that this is a good thing to have. Whatever the theme is that year, it's expanding upon what they might already know. And we gear the activities for different age groups too. We're not talking at a senior high level to kids who are 8 years old. We gear it so that everybody can understand it and get the main concepts.
That brings up a good question. What ages are kids welcome to join the camp?
We take kids from 8 years old to 16 or 17. And once they reach 16 or 17, then we encourage them to join the counselor in training program.
Oh, okay.
Where my son is. He's been for the last 3 years, and he's old enough that he decided that he wants to be in the action a little more on the planning side of things. So he's going for the counselor in training program.
So the youngest ones are 8.
That's correct, yes.
And your birthday has to be what, the day of the first day of the camp, or what?
That's an excellent question. I believe so, yeah.
So then my next question is, are only non-religious or atheist children welcome, or what if a kid identifies as religious or comes from Christian parents? Does that matter?
It's open to all, and we try really hard to leave the discussion up to where the kids want to take it and how they want to talk about it. So we don't spend. It's not about indoctrinating. It's about letting kids have open discussion and think about things and talk. And in fact, we have had campers who have come from religious backgrounds for various reasons. They have a friend going, the camp sounds fun. I heard that one camper came because they wanted to expand their world a little bit and meet people that they weren't sure if they would have a connection with.
Wow,
and that was an older teen camper, but it's open to all. It's so.
If the camper is open to learning, looking at things a different way, we'll welcome them. We don't exclude anybody.
Right.
What if they want to join to proselytize to the other students?
Well, we might have to have a talk with them somewhere along the way, but we hope that they're coming for non-nefarious means.
Okay.
And that would be a good opportunity for counselors and staff to model how do you discuss things that might be a little tense, and how do you work that out, and how do you find a way to say, you know, that's making us uncomfortable, and you know that's a good learning point too. So I would imagine that they would, you know, they would use that as a discussion point and,
that makes
a way
sense,
to model adult behavior.
Yeah, sure. So you both mentioned counselors, and it sounds like you can start pretty young, like 16, 17 years old. What are the qualifications apart from age to being a counselor?
Well, you need a desire to do it. You want to work with kids. We also have a application process where you put in your application, hence the process, and we would interview people and ask them how they feel about certain things, go through a standard interview, have them answer some questions, do some background checks to not only make sure that they would fit within the camp as far as being with the kids, but making sure that they're a good fit for the camp.
Oh, sure. So is there an ideal ratio you shoot for? If there's 60 students there or 60 campers, how many counselors do you want?
We are aiming to have, for every 2.5 campers, to have one counselor.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's more than I thought.
It's a very high counselor to camper ratio.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay. So we talked a little bit about some of the programs there, and some of them sound pretty standard for camp, like archery or swimming, but you guys mentioned some others when we wrote via email before, such as like critical thinking. Maybe we can talk more about what goes into what happens at camp regarding critical thinking.
Well, Socrates Cafe.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that. So define
one.
that for us, yeah.
Define that.
You don't have to give me the word for word definition.
Okay.
Well, now you do, because you have the paper
Yes, I
out
do.
there.
I have it right here. It's using Socratic method to talk about different philosophical perspectives. And the way they do it at camp is that they might give the younger campers a little bit of guidance or give them some sample questions, but as they get older, the campers themselves get to choose a topic and decide on it as a group. And then they openly discuss that, and the goal is to come up with more questions rather than a set answer. There should not be just a definitive answer at the end. And it's a practice for a way of talking about philosophical ideas that keeps your mind moving and open.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So,
That sounds like fun.
yeah.
In a nerdy sort of way. You know? And then what about science in general? Like I imagine being outdoors a lot just affords a real chance to do science, but are there specific activities you guys engage in or encourage them to do?
A lot of the activities are based on the theme for the week. We try to tie that into some scientific principles. For example, this year's theme is illumination, so there'll be, like Theresa mentioned, some activities with optics, probably looking at, and I haven't seen the whole list yet, but breaking light up into a prism. Oh, okay. How does that do that? Why does that do it? Not really getting into wave theory, but this is what's going on here. Last year's communication one was using 2 tin cans and a string to talk to between 2 people. How does that work? The sound travels in the can through the string, then through the other can. So including scientific principles and rational explanations with the activities that we're doing, as not necessarily a lesson in itself, but including it as part of the lesson.
Okay. You could divide the camp up into students who think it's a wave and students who think it's a particle.
We could. And we could divide it into a third group that has no idea what we're talking
Right,
about.
yeah, that would be probably the majority of students, I imagine. So another topic that you guys try to cover at camp is respect for others and diversity. So what do you do there to try and cover that?
Well, like we mentioned earlier, we don't exclude anybody. We take people of all faiths or no faith. We take or are accepting of LGBT campers. We've had some LGBT campers in the past. I think last year we had a couple. I think we've had some in the previous years too. And one of the things we teach or try to get across is that, okay, people are different, but you should still respect them. Be nice to everybody, basically. And respect everyone unless they prove otherwise, but so far no one's done that.
Sure, yeah. Were you going to add something?
Well, and it is very specific to the activity too. For instance, if we're talking about morality through pop culture and we're showing a small, because it was language and communication, we showed a series of short silent films. And so depending on what the topic of those short films are, we will, because the activities are written out like lesson plans before they're taken to camp by the counselors, we make sure to tie a humanist principle. We up front, we say, you know, this particular activity we feel addresses this principle. And so those ideas of respect and empathy and compassion and the value of science, the value of the arts, because those are in our list of humanist principles that we follow, we make sure to make that explicit that this activity or this lesson plan we feel addresses this. And then that's written out somewhere. If you're outside, it might be on a piece of paper on the picnic table because you're running around, but it's still mentioned so that we let them know that we're tying it to those core values.
Yeah.
So
Do you think the kids make that connection? Do they?
I suppose it depends on the kid and
Yeah.
the age.
Oh, yeah, the
probably.
age,
Yeah.
yeah.
But being around that, I would hope that some of it would sink in. Even if it's not explicitly said to the kids, that they would see this throughout camp, these recurrent themes that are just constants, and they would get the idea that, oh, maybe I should do this, or this sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it sounds like just with anything, like it's amazing what kids take in, but it's also amazing what they just don't get too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. And then you mentioned, Theresa, acts of service, but like charitable activities. What do you guys do? Do something there during camp?
It's been a variety of activities. We very frequently will clear buckthorn for the facilities that rent us their.
Oh, okay,
we
yeah.
rent the camp for 2 weeks while their campers are not attending. And so we will clear buckthorn. We have packaged meals and food for Second Harvest. Last year, I believe because it was language and communication, kids made up a code and then wrote a letter in code to service people who were serving in places like ships and submarines where
okay.
they needed that kind of
yeah.
letter communication. So it's a variety of things, sometimes tied to the theme, sometimes not.
And then let's talk about the nuts and bolts of the camp. So you mentioned there's like 2 weeks, but each one is just a week long that the campers come.
Each is a standalone
Okay,
session.
and do you know when is it normally held? Or when is it going to be held this year?
Well, we try to have it the last 2 weeks of July.
Okay.
This year, it will be, the first week will be on July 16th to the 22nd, second week from the 23rd through the 29th.
Okay.
Our new Iowa camp will be the week before both the Minnesota camps or actually a couple weeks before that, from June 25th through July 1st.
And at least for Minnesotans, where is it held?
It's held at the Voyager Environmental Center. It's near Mound on an arm of Lake Minnetonka.
Oh, okay, so it's in the Twin Cities?
Yes.
Not too far from downtown Minneapolis, actually.
About an hour drive.
Okay, all right. And if someone wanted to send their child there, when do they have to register? What do they have to do?
Registration is open right now.
Okay.
They can.
So right now, we're taping this in January. I'll just say that because not everyone's
Right,
going to.
thank you. That's a
So,
good
so about 6
clarification.
months before the
Usually-
camp actually takes place.
Right, we usually
Okay.
open registration around the 1st of January.
Oh, okay, all right. And then I assume it can be done online, right?
Correct.
Everything needs to be done
Okay.
online.
And then let's talk about the name change. It used to be, what was Camp Quest? Well, just you tell me, what did it used to be and what is it now?
It was Camp Quest, Minnesota.
Okay,
And
yeah.
now with Iowa opening, and we have quite a bit of demand and people asking us for Wisconsin sites, so that might be down the road. We're taking the name Camp Quest North because it indicates our region. And with that growth there are going to be more demands for counselors and volunteers, and and funding. It costs
Yeah, that was
us-
my next thing here.
Oh.
So which one of you wealthy benefactors pays for all of this?
She does.
Okay, so it comes out of your wallet, Theresa.
Well,
thank you,
a
Theresa.
lot of work on the part of our counselors and our board of directors. We raise about $20,000 each year to keep camp affordable and to offer camp scholarships to campers who need it. And we also staff with many volunteers. And
So-
so people give of their time as well to make this all happen.
So, yeah, you said what I was going to ask. So the staff is volunteer.
That's correct.
And then a lot of the money comes from the cost parents pay for their children to go, right? But then how else are you fundraising?
We look in the community for donations
Oh, okay.
of not only money, but also time and materials and locations, anything that we'll take to help to make this a successful camp. Also volunteers, our counselors, all volunteers, as Theresa mentioned, they do give a week of their time, and we can't really do it without the counselors. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I would think for a lot of people in their late teens, it's a nice way to beef up a pretty thin resume that they
Yeah,
probably have at that moment, but to say that they've done that volunteer activity.
Right.
We do look at colleges for kids, usually juniors and seniors, but any interested student and
Okay.
kids into their 20s. We've even had people who are grandparents be
Oh, really?
counselors.
Okay.
As far as our support from donors, it's many individuals and many secular organizations will try and support us as well
Oh,
with
okay.
funding. And we also, on our website, there are links where you can actually buy supplies for camp through an Amazon wish list, or Amazon Smile is another way to indicate that part of those proceeds will go to
Oh,
Camp
right,
Quest
yeah,
Minnesota. So that's another way people have supported us.
So we have about 5 minutes left here. One thing I want to ask is, what is some of the response you've gotten from the community at large?
Well, we can look at our demand for camp. The last 2 years, we're full, and that tells me that we are filling a need here. Whenever we've talked with a secular atheist group, they've had nothing but good things to say about us, that we fill a need and that there's value in what we do for the community.
How about any negative backlash from anyone in the community? Is there maybe religious organizations or groups that don't like it or think it's pointless, anything like that?
I'm not going to say I haven't heard any indicating that it's not out there. I imagine it is. Some people don't have the right idea about our camp. We're not bashing religion. Just have an open mind. That's all we require. We're not saying that what you believe in is wrong, but we can't get that across if people think that we're a bunch of bad people indoctrinating kids into the wrong thing. We're not. We'd like to think we're good people.
I just recently went to a national leadership conference put on by the National Camp Quest Inc.
Oh, okay.
organization, and in talking to people from other regions, we are lucky in that it sounds like I have not encountered much flack or...
Were there attendees from other parts of the country
yes.
indicating negative backlash?
They're indicating just more difficulty finding
okay.
sites to hold camp. Once campsites or camps figure out what they're about, they find a way to get them out. And so we haven't encountered any of that. We've been very lucky to feel less pushback, I feel like. So
They're more accepting.
I feel like a lot of camps in the Twin Cities area are branded with YMCA, so that tells me there's a religious background to them. Is that the kind of camp that we rent the site of, or do you know?
I don't think Voyager Environmental Center
Okay.
has that aspect to it.
Okay, that's probably a city or county owned? Or don't, I'm not asking tough questions, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know that I've been
okay.
privy to that information.
Oh, all right.
So I think I know the organization that uses it the rest of the summer, but I don't want
okay.
to say
That's fine,
because I
sure.
can't verify it.
Yeah,
so.
no, that's okay. I was just
Okay.
wondering who was controlling it, but it doesn't sound like it's a problem for us anyway, so that's,
They're very supportive. They love having us use the site. They're very welcoming. So
and then if there's any special needs or restrictions for the campers, how do you guys handle that?
during the registration process, there are lots of opportunities, lots of questions that will get at some of those, but then there are also areas where you can just, type it in, or you can call our camp director, or you can, and those things will be indicated on the website as well, or through email, or ask for the camp director to call. So it could certainly be talked about too in
okay,
person,
sure.
but in the application or the process of filling out, we want to go to camp. There are lots of questions that will allow you to share some allergies or things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that, if
yeah.
that's what you
And
meant.
the more information you give, the easier it is for us to accommodate them, and the more comfortable they would feel in going to camp, knowing that their needs are being met.
Sure. Or to plan for it if necessary,
Right.
yeah. So if people want to learn more, since we're almost out of time, how can they do that?
They can visit our website, cqminnesota.org. That will probably change in the future because we are changing our identity. But for now, CQ Minnesota will get you to where you need to go.
So it has the application information there, but anything else?
It tells about what Camp Quest does, why we do it, how we do it, and gives you all the information you need to make a choice on whether this is the right camp for your kids.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like it covers all the bases. All right, well, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Theresa, for
Thank you.
joining
Thanks
us
for
on
having
the show. And thank you for listening or watching the show. If you would like to hear more topics here on Atheist Talk, we'd encourage you to contact us because we're willing to engage in different conversations about different topics. If you want to contact us at the information you see on the screen, we can even send you a free copy of our newsletter so that you know what sort of activities Minnesota Atheists is taking part in or organizing in the coming months. Because if you're interested in us, we're interested in you. So thanks again.